my lab has also been doing work looking at the microbiome in autism spectrum disorders. And, this is actually a much tougher nut to crack in some ways than HIV. HIV is more one disease, whereas you can tell just from the name autism spectrum disorders is a spectrum where, there is an association between autism and gastrointestinal problems, but not all kids on the spectrum have them. And there's just a very wide range of symptoms. And so there's been a few papers linking microbes or their products, their metabolites, and showing altered composition with autism. And one paper that said, well, we looked and there was no difference in the microbes with autism. And so so right now the literature is a little divided and conflicting. And one of the reasons I think this is the case is that it's a more complicated disease. And so I think right now what the field really needs is kind of better subtyping of the people evaluated on the spectrum, and also just looking with the same techniques at larger cohorts. And so really, there's two different efforts that I've been involved in. And one, I've been involved in the Night Labs effort through the American Gut to recruit a very large cohort of individuals so that we just have a lot of people from all over the country and can relate to all the other people in the American Gut as controls. And then I've also been collaborating with a group at Arizona State University, head by Rosie Krajmalnik-Brown, where we're recruiting kind of a more carefully controlled cohort where, I'm working with a doctor at CU Denver who we're only recruiting from her practice. So we have all of their medical records, and we're getting fecal samples, urine samples, blood samples, and we're going to try to match up the microbes that are there, the metabolites that are there, all of rich data on their symptoms. And another part of that project that Rosie's group at ASU has gotten going is to actually, they've gotten FDA approval to use fecal transplant therapy as an investigational new drug for kids who have autism spectrum disorders. And so they've been starting a first pilot study there to do fecal transplants on kids who have autism who also have concurrent gastrointestinal problems. And our plan is to actually take all these rich data as well, the blood, the urine, the metabolites, and the microbes, and see how all of that changes before and after a transplant, along with whether there's a behavioral improvement. Because I think for some people it's hard to grasp that a gut bacteria could affect behavior in any way. And there's just been, not only with regard to autism spectrum disorders, but all sorts of behaviors, some very interesting research showing that there is this link between your gut and your brain that could affect things ranging from depression to stress to autism spectrum disorders, we believe. So that's another thing that I think years ago no one would have imagined. Let's look at microbes to understand this, and now it's becoming more and more accepted in the scientific community that this isn't some crazy whimsical idea. This is, something that really has merit. So I think that microbe